INTA is the International Trademarks Association. Until about 20 years ago, it was the US Trademarks Association, and it's still got a very strong US bias, originally set up by trademark owners, actually, rather than trademark lawyers, so that gives it another twist. It's been going for well over 100 years, and it lays on every year the biggest gathering of trademark lawyers in the world. Well, the thing that it's most known for is the annual meeting, but it holds meetings and seminars, lectures and things all over the United States and elsewhere in the world. There's quite a huge program of events during the course of each year. It publishes a bulletin. It publishes a fairly learned journal called the Trademarks Reporter. There's scholarly articles about trademark matters. So it's quite a large and important organisation for providing education in the trademarks field. It also lobbies and influences governments not only in the United States but also elsewhere in the world. It's got a very large educational program. There are masses and masses of lectures to go to, lots of very interesting presentations. Usually the quality is very, very high, and for people coming from the UK, the advantage is that you can get your CPD points by attending some of those, as can the Americans who are there as well. But over and above that, it's a gigantic networking event. There are thousands, probably 7,000 or 8,000 people gathered together in one city, usually in the United States. It's been in Amsterdam and it's been in Boston, in Berlin, but it's never worked very well outside the United States. And people just spend the time furiously networking. Well, for a lot of people, it's a matter of catching up with their overseas clients. For people who've got big corporate clients, it's attending briefings run by those clients about what their plans are for their brands during the forthcoming year and the period after that. For people who don't have that sort of connection, it's a matter of meeting associates that you've worked with overseas or associates that you want to get to know in overseas countries. With trademark work, you need a network of people in foreign countries who you can turn to for assistance when your clients have got problems. So it's very important and very useful to have a collection of people who you're not just picking out of a directory by sticking in a pin. You actually know these people, and then later you get the experience of working with them and you learn how reliable they are. The International Trademarks Association itself organises a number of large receptions during the course of the week that the annual meeting takes place. There's an opening reception and there's a closing reception. Everybody gets together, large numbers of the delegates to get together, and they're just huge bun fights where often it's very difficult to find the people that you're looking for. It's rather not the most efficient networking opportunity. But on the other hand, you get thrown in with people that you've never met before and you otherwise might not have met, and it might turn out that they are useful people to know at some point in the future. So you never quite know what networking opportunities are going to be useful and which ones aren't. In addition to the official events, there's a huge list of parties going on, and INTA actually authorise people to hold parties. They get onto the official INTA list, and then they stand a chance of getting a write-up and a photograph in the daily newspaper, which the conference produces. It's big enough to justify its own daily newspaper. A lot of firms put on their own parties so that they can invite their contacts in from other countries along to meet them, see them. It's quite convenient to do it that way. You can get your 200 or 400 or however many it is people that you really want to see all together in a room at once, and then at least you've touched base with them during the course of the week instead of having to organise lots and lots of one-to-one meetings. Usually, the hosts of those meetings are perfectly happy for outsiders to come in without an invitation. Usually they're not closed events. I think really, unless you've got an awful lot of gall, you need to be able to tag on with somebody who has got an invitation in order to get into those things. But I don't think anybody ever throws people out of there. But there's a whole different level of entertaining. There are formal dinners and things like that. And there are closed events, definitely closed events, usually thrown by the trademark owners who want to to socialise with their particular group of trademark lawyers from around the world, and you wouldn't get into one of those very easily. Well, apart from the educational events and the official receptions and things, there's not so much going on now as there used to in INTA meetings. There used to be a whole afternoon given over to sports events, but that's disappeared from the calendar in the last couple of years, which is a great shame. It was a fantastic way of meeting a relatively small and manageable number of people if you went along to one of those things. I found it very useful when I first started going to INTA to be able to get to know the people who did the 5K run that they used to organise, and that's really where my circle of INTA acquaintances has grown from. That has disappeared from the programme, but this year an enterprising firm from Bogota in Colombia has decided it's going to put on its own 5K race. So that's back on the agenda in an unofficial way. Well, one very difficult lesson that I learned last year is that it's useless if you show up at INTA and you left your business cards on your desk in London. So make sure that you take business cards with you. Make sure you take plenty of them with you as well. You need probably at least a couple of hundred. And a very important part of the process, I wouldn't say it's the be-all and end-all of it, but if you don't exchange business cards with people, you're not going to get the full value out of your trip to the INTA Annual Meeting. So take plenty of business cards and remember to bring plenty back with you as well. Apart from that, I think it's a matter of taking advantage of whatever it is that most suits your purpose. If you want to go to some of the lectures, then they are outstandingly good for the most part, and you will learn a lot. You'll also meet people there. You'll find yourself sitting next to people that perhaps you haven't met, and I've certainly made acquaintances in that way in the past. So it's a networking opportunity as well as an opportunity to go and learn something and get some CPD points, which are on offer. On the other hand, what most people do when they go to INTA, or it certainly seems that way, is that they spend their time going around the restaurants and bars and conference hotels, meeting people in pre-arranged one-to-one meetings. And if you're going to do that, if you've got a long list of contacts and people you want to see, then it's probably a good idea to try and arrange one-to-one meetings with them. Remember to leave enough time to get from one venue to another. It ends up being a mad rush, and also I think bear in mind that probably about a quarter of those simply aren't going to happen because the other person doesn't show up, they got their last meeting overrun, or they got lost somewhere en route, or whatever it might be. So there are all kinds of reasons why the best laid plans might go wrong, but it's certainly advantageous if that's what you want to get out of it, to make appointments with all the people that you want to meet and make sure that you get round to see them all that way.